Well, Kamel, welcome to the Trips and Global on Wheels podcast hour. It's like I said, so good to meet you, and thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast.
Thank you for the invitation, Mink, and it's a pleasure. And I hope the discussion to be interesting and our listeners to enjoy it.
Of course, I'm sure it will be. So let me read a brief bio about you so the listeners are familiar with your background, okay? And then we'll proceed from there.
Thank you.
Okay. So Kamil Goungor is 36 and he is from Poland and is born and lives in is from Poland, but is born and lives in Greece, where he studied journalism and communication. In 2014, he co-founded iLiving, the first and only independent living organization in Greece, which now he chairs. Since 2018, he works for the European Network on Independent Living, ENIL, as policy and movement support officer. Also, until autumn of 2022, he represented the ENIL Youth Network at the Youth Committee of the European Disability Forum, being the chair of the latter, and he was also in the Youth Committee of the International Disability Alliance. Finally, Kamil is the only disabled travel blogger in Greece, and you can check him out at the TRA Wheeler, and you can share a little bit more about it later as well. In fact, I'll let you elaborate on your bio and your background a bit more right now. Can you tell us a little about yourself, your disability, anything else you'd like to share with us to gain a better understanding of you?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Uh, as you said, I am almost 36, like in a few weeks. Uh, I am from Poland. I live in Greece, and I was born here, and I live all my life here, with some small breaks when I travel. And 6 months also, I lived in Belgium, which was a life-changing experience for me. I work for the European Network on Independent Living, and this is also, a big privilege for me and an experience that I'm sure we will discuss and the meaning of the work we do there. And yeah, this also influenced me and other friends here in Greece to create the Greek Independent Living Organization, iLiving, to promote independent living and personal assistance and the institutionalization in our country. Since when we created it, no one really talked about these things. And today we have significant change in the situation. So, this is important. And because of my privilege to travel for my work and the things I do, and because of my passion as well, and I have to travel. I have the opportunity to travel a lot for conferences, meetings, whatever, trainings. And then I thought, why not to make something out of this to share with people? So I created my travel blog, The Traveler. The name comes from traveler and wheeler. It's kind of a combination. So The Traveler. And I wanted to share with people, not only with disabled people. It's not an accessibility guide. It's more a journal, a personal journal of me traveling and sharing, the beautiful world, the different cultures, and basically that it's possible. And if I can do it with my electric wheelchair and and I have spinal muscular atrophy, by the way, in case anyone is interested on that. Uh, and I need 24 support. So I'm always traveling with someone, and in general, in my life, I need always someone to support me, even to take a selfie or to eat something or to drink water or to change side in my bed in the night. So this is me, more or less. I don't know what else would you like to for me to say. Maybe some hobbies like reading books, playing chess, watching sports, and traveling, as I said. Thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that about yourself, and it seems like you're a pioneer in your area, being the only one, and having done so much. So I'm curious. It seems like you've been very much inspired to do lots of great advocacy work. What positive influence did you have growing up in terms of seeking guidance from people that face similar challenges as you, or people that inspired you to do all this work, all this wonderful work that you've done so far?
Thank you for the question. Just to say, I don't feel I am a pioneer. It just happened that I am the first disabled travel blogger in Greece, but there are, of course, a lot of disabled people traveling, like athletes or something. And we have travel bloggers in other countries. In the USA, there are a lot. And I mean, when it comes to independent living, together with my colleagues, we are kind of pioneering in the country at some point, but someone always needs to start. And of course, we didn't discover the wheel. We were influenced and inspired by others in Europe. So I'm coming to your question on that. And not only in Europe, but starting worldwide from Ed Roberts, from Judy Human. These people inspired the whole world and the whole movement of independent living. Then came people to Europe that met with these people in USA in the past. Adolf Ratska, for example, the father of independent living in Europe. He is now in Sweden. Kapanayotova, she was from Bulgaria. She's not with us anymore. And a lot of other people, around the globe. John Evans in the UK, very nice person. Jamie Bolling in Sweden. I met so many people, everywhere, younger and and older. And Peter Lambrecht was my mentor in Belgium. When I was living in Belgium, he took me by the hand, as we say, and he guided me in the movement, and he taught me to believe in myself, and he gave me so many opportunities. And all these people, welcome me. The people from the European Network on Independent Living, the Youth Network, and all our members, and people all over Europe and even beyond. They influenced me and many others. And Stelios Kibouropoulos in Greece, for example, who took me to the first international independent living event and believed that I should be part of the discussion. So all these people helped me in a way, shaped me, and gave me the opportunity. They believed in me. And this is, I think, now, it's like a domino. Someone was their mentor, someone was their influence. Then I met them. They welcomed me to the movement. They wanted me to participate, to learn, to take opportunities, and then it's me continuing this discussion and now engaging with young people, which is one of the main part of my work at ENIL, the European Network on Independent Living. To give the opportunity for the future generation to engage and to create the leaders of the future, because in the end of the day, if we stop fighting for our rights, we will have problems. So we always need to be there. We always need to be here, and we need to believe in the next generation and youth. Someone believed in me. Now I believe in others, and we work together. And also, like places like yours, podcasts help a lot to the discussion to get running.
Yeah, exactly. And so I use a manual wheelchair as well, which you may already know due to scoliosis and polio as my disabilities. So I've also traveled quite a bit as a wheelchair user. And I'm curious, as someone who also loves travel, what's your best advice for long-term wheelchair users who would like to travel more?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Also, your passion for travel, and yeah, the question. There is a lot of advice we can give. First of all, I always say to people that it's possible and that they shouldn't be afraid and that we see progress. So nowadays, it's much more easier to travel to places that 20 years ago we could not even imagine. And, year by year, even month by month, we get new accessibility milestones and new places become friendlier for wheelchair users, for blind people, for autistic, for everyone, for deaf people. So, I mean, I speak from the perspective of wheelchair users, but of course, we have many more disabilities in this world, impairments. And so one case is that don't be afraid. One advice is that we shouldn't be afraid, and we should know that it's possible. Nowadays we have regulations, we have information out there. There are travelers, there are disabled travel bloggers which write in English. I mean, from Corey in USA to others in other parts. By the way, Corey is coming to Greece next week, and we will probably meet. So I just say, probably he's very famous in the field. So these people give a lot of information, share a lot, and show how where to go, how can you go, and if you like a place and your dream is a place, and you dream to go, I don't know, to Italy or somewhere, don't be afraid because you're a wheelchair user or someone. This is my advice to people. Look for information, ask. There are communities out there on Facebook, on Instagram, on different platforms of disabled travelers that share a lot of information. There are information online. And this is why we are doing this kind of travel blogging, to show the people that you can go pretty much everywhere if you are also okay to get a little bit out of your comfort zone sometimes. And because in USA you have the ADA, but out of USA there is no ADA anymore. So this means a little bit different standards, but it's still super possible. And the final advice is, don't hesitate to prepare. The best you prepare, the best you research, the smoother it will be, and the most, say, the most, how do I say it? The most free for you. I mean, not for you, for you people, for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. I think just don't be afraid, and what you're saying, just doing it. There's always solutions that will come up, as well. Of course, there'll always be obstacles that come up as well. But I think so. You were saying that there are improvements, and even that there are constantly adaptations being made. How has travel been made easier over the course of the time that you've been traveling?
Thank you. So I am traveling approximately, I mean, I'm not famous for my memory, but let's say around, wait, I don't know, almost 15 years, I think. I started my first trip, I think it was 2008, if I remember well. So, and I mean, and of course, nowadays I travel much more. And I think what I have seen is that, I mean, first of all, the places become much more accessible. The destinations you could go in the past and the destinations you can go now, it's much different because, local communities invest a lot into welcome accessible tourists, because also they are financially, there is benefit, but also because now we talk about human rights. Now disabled people are more visible thanks to social media, thanks to internet, thanks to podcasts, YouTubers, all these kind of things. Thanks to the CRPD, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, thanks to the new legislation, more and more places and people and hotels and beaches and everything become more accessible. In Greece, you have, for example, Acropolis in Athens. It's, ancient, one of the ancient wonders of the world. It's more than 2,000 years. And now they created an elevator and you can go on the rock and see Acropolis. It was impossible to imagine in the past. Or you can go to Venice, in Italy, and I haven't been myself yet, but I know it's possible. Or I have seen people going to Machu Picchu, or to go to Cambodia with accessible tuk-tuk. So there are this kind of solutions that there were not in the past. And also the travel industry itself, the airplanes, the airports, the hotels invest more and more now. And you can see this. When I traveled first, we had, less hotels available, less options online, filters. When you I don't know, you go to a website to book hotels. Now you can select if you want to be accessible and what you need. In the past, you could not do that. There were no options. So this is a change. You have companies, the public transportation is much more better. Of course, there are a lot of challenges yet, and we still need a lot of work, also in Greece and other countries. But we are going there, and there is significant improvement, I think. And and I think it's pretty possible to do a lot of the work. Not everything yet, but quite a lot.
Yeah, I agree. And I appreciate your optimism too. And even though there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, right, to make travel more accessible for people with mobility disabilities, because that's what we're talking about um, in this question specifically. And, in terms of transportation, as you were saying, social media and the internet and information traveling so quickly and being able to communicate with people from all different parts of the world. Um, Due to all those reasons, travel has been made much, much more accessible than previously. So the next few questions will be more broadly focused on disability advocacy. So as I just alluded to, my platform is disability advocacy, but also mainly focused on people with mobility disabilities. So how do you think, to elaborate on that response that you just gave, how do you think we can make travel more accessible for people with mobility disabilities?
I think one of the first steps is to include people with mobility disabilities, disabled people, into the industry, into our work. I mean, the famous phrase, "Nothing about us without us." I will even say, I will even change it a little bit and say, "Nothing without us." No matter if it's specifically for disabled people or not. Nothing should be without the disabled people in the discussion. So, I think we should be there as equal experts and the co-design, the travel industry advice, the companies, we should have accessibility experts everywhere, ideally disabled people with mobility or whatever disability, and talk with the people, and or at least to have some focus groups, some discussions, regular, I don't know, expert meetings, with the disabled people and their organizations, to train the staff, to train, to do campaigns, to do advocacy, to do campaigns on the streets, on the online, in the social media, to make the whole thing, to make uh, how to say, to make disability travel sexy for the general audience. That it's we don't just ask you to include us to travel, but we have the right to do it. And if you include us, everyone benefits. It's not only us who will benefit, families will benefit, older people will benefit, and of course, economy will benefit because we travel, we usually spend a lot. We usually travel with more than one person, with assistants or with families. We use a lot of word of mouth. So if I am happy with a destination, you will learn about it. And this will so someone who is accessible today, gets good feedback and gets more customers in the future. So even if we look at strictly economically and forget about rights and stuff, which I think it's important to remember, of course, our rights and that everyone deserves to travel and to enjoy life on equal basis, it's still beneficial. And we should be part of the discussion, I think. We should shape it together. Like we should shape together everything. For example, we discuss about climate change. And very often disabled people are left out of the discussion of climate change. But disabled people are also the ones most affected, among the ones most affected by climate crisis. So, in every aspect, disabled people should be included and involved. And then, also, I think because we are experts on ourselves and we know about our needs, we need, because of our life, to be creative, to be innovative. We can propose solutions that can benefit a lot the society. Now there's the discussion about making airplanes accessible for wheelchair users. And even though some disabled advocates prove that this is safe, it's still not implemented. But when it happens, it will be life-changing for thousands of people. Okay, maybe companies will not like the idea in the beginning. They might lose a little bit of profit, but this is life.
Yeah, great points. Thank you. And in regards to, I know you've done a lot of disability advocacy work over the years. Which aspects have you been most proud of, and which aspect have you found like most frustrating?
Thank you, thank you. So, okay, we discussed it so far about traveling, which is part of my life and part of my work and advocacy. But the other part that I really have close to my heart, and it's also related to my job, and I realize that is very important. And when what I do on every day, it's related to independent living. How can we make sure that disabled people, no matter of their impairments, no matter of the level of support they need, they can live independently in the community with choice and control over our lives and with the support we need, and not in any segregating facilities, in any institutions, in any group homes, which in many cases, in many countries, group homes are considered a good thing, even though they are clearly institutional, and even though non-disabled people don't live in group homes. So there is no reason for disabled people to live in group homes. Other sheltered workshops, special schools, all these things segregate people, disabled people from non-disabled people, and this doesn't benefit anyone. So this is what frustrates me, that we have a lot of segregation in our societies today. We have institutions, we have special schools, we have sheltered workshops, we have different special activities, and we are not together. We don't put children together in the schools. I mean, in some countries it happens, but I talk, from our reality here. And I think it's important, that we start including everyone in society, and we start to offer to everyone, the possibility to take their potential. And let me give you the example of Stephen Hawking. Everyone knows Stephen Hawking. He was a fantastic scientist, but he had super high support needs. In the right environment, in the right country, he was able, with the right support and communication and everything, to be the scientist and the person we all know. In the wrong environment, if he was living, for example, in my country, probably, he would be an institution, he would be considered a plant, and he would probably die much earlier. So it's about attitude, it's about believing, and offering the support needed, also investing, but this investment go back, because when government pays money to segregation, disabled people don't give anything back to society. They are just in institutions. But if you offer money for personal assistance, for assistive devices, technology, and everything we need to be able to live and to work and to flourish in our society, we contribute, we employ people, we give money back to the society, we are active, we involve more people. So, the final thing I want to say on this is that because there is a myth that not everyone can live independently, that some people are so disabled that they cannot live independently. But personally, I don't believe in that. And I know from experience, we have good examples in some countries, and some people I know and we know that they can live totally independently, no matter of their condition, no matter if they have intellectual impairment or autism or physical impairment, or all of this together. It's everything about the support and about the right mentality in the society.
That was a very powerful point you made about, if Stephen Hawking was, growing up in a different part of the world and doing his work in a different part of the world where the stigma, the attitudes towards people with disabilities were more detrimental. It would decrease the lifespan, productivity, and also just overall well-being of his life, right? And I agree. I was born in China and then moving to the US. where there is a totally different attitude towards people with disabilities. And I think that has increased my opportunities and well-being in many ways, as well. So you say you are talking to us from Greece today, right? Where in Greece?
I'm based in Athens, in the
Oh,
capital.
oh, you're in Athens. I've been there. Yeah, I've traveled to Athens.
How did you find it?
I loved it. Yeah, it was certain parts of it was inaccessible still, I found, but it was beautiful. I went to a couple of the islands, and then I, of course, went to the Acropolis and checked out some of the famous attractions. What I want to ask about that is just gain a little more understanding of Greece and Athens. How do you find the accessibility there? How has it changed over the years?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question, and it depends who you ask, because if you ask someone who never saw a different city, and they just live in Athens, and not only Athens, no matter the city you live in the world, if it's the only place you kind of get adapted, and for you this is the normal, the reality. But when you start traveling, when you start learning about possibilities and seeing, different places being much better or much worse, because I will not say that Athens is the worst or the best. I would say we are somewhere in the middle, in Greece. Then you start, realizing that there are things that can be done, and and then you start questioning why we didn't do it, why we don't have accessible buses, for example, why our sidewalks are so problematic if other cities can have decent sidewalks for wheelchair users, why we don't respect the ramps and we park on them with our cars, why we don't respect the guiding lines for blind people and we put chairs of cafeterias on them. Why we do that, and why they don't do it in Germany, or why they don't do it in Sweden, for example, or USA. So you start questioning this thing, and I think that Greece is in the middle. We have made significant progress. So now it's not the most accessible city, most accessible country, and Greek people usually will tell bad things, that we are very bad, we are on the bottom of the list, especially in Europe and stuff like that. But it's totally possible to visit if you are a foreigner. Like, you came to Greece and you enjoyed it, so it was possible for you to do it. But yeah, and we see more and more cities investing into accessibility. Our beaches become more and more accessible. More accommodations, more transport options. We have a relatively new metro, which we made for Olympic Games, and it's accessible. So now it's one of the most accessible metros in Europe. Okay, it's because of the Olympics, but we took advantage of it. So all these things. So it is possible, but of course we need to continue the work to push more. Sometimes it's very difficult to go from one city to another because of accessibility. The trains are relatively bad. The buses from city to city are not accessible. From Athens to Patra, Patra is the third biggest city of Greece. There is no accessible way to go. So from the first to the third biggest city, you don't have any accessible way to go. You need to pay a hell of money to hire a car, which will take you there if you don't have your own car. But you cannot use any public transport to go in an accessible way. So these kind of things are very disappointing. And then it's about, the shops and the restaurants and the toilets. We need to work on that, because you go and you find accessible toilet and they made it, I don't know, they put trash on it, or they made it, I don't know how you say it, they store things inside. They don't use it for the purpose it should be. If they have toilet at all, which usually they don't. So stuff like that needs to be improved.
Yeah, great points and very insightful as well. I don't know if we have time to cover the next topic. I feel like we don't, but I'll just ask one question. I know employment for people with disabilities here in the United States is very low. So we have a 70% unemployment rate for people with disabilities, which, is astounding for a first world nation. How is it in Greece, and how do you think that could be improved?
Yeah, employment and unemployment, it's a very big issue, unfortunately, in Greece and in Europe and in many countries.
So
We need to
unemployment, I
work.
just wanted to clarify, unemployment of people with
Unemployment, yeah,
disabilities,
unemployment, yes.
70%, so 30% employed.
Yeah, of course. So access to employment for disabled people is difficult. In Greece, it is a very big, it's a challenge. Of course, compared to the past, now it's a bit easier, and this is something positive. But again, we still need to work a lot on that. And there are some programs, there are some initiatives, but it's still very low. There is a lot of stigma. There is a lot of inaccessibility. So, buildings are not accessible. Companies are not willing to invest into technologies or reasonable accommodation. And, they don't even if you have a law and regulations, they prefer to pay the fee or, something instead of investing into hiring disabled people because they feel we will not be productive and stuff like that. I myself, I live in Greece, but I don't work in Greece. I work for an organization in other country, in Belgium, a European organization. It was easier for me to find job outside in Greece. They are, and also very often when you work, not only in Greece, in many countries, disabled people are underpaid. They are not, respectfully paid, and they are not valued. But of course, there are many exceptions, and we know people who succeed, many people who do their own businesses. Sometimes this is the easiest part to move forward, to do your own stuff. And yeah, I mean, many people work for disability organizations. Depends. There is a lot. There is no support if you don't have personal assistance. In Greece, we don't have. We just have a pilot project, which we started recently, which is a very big and positive improvement. But still, it's very limited. If people don't have support, you cannot go to your work by yourself, and you cannot take your family every day, every time, to these places. So we need more support. We need more support to go to education, to go outside in the society and to work.
Yeah, I think this is a huge issue probably everywhere in most countries, if not all countries around the world. And so thank you for accenting the situation in Greece in terms of employment for people with disabilities. So due to time constraints, I'll just ask you one more question.
Okay.
And that one is, in closing, what is your ultimate dream with your disability advocacy work? And then how can people follow your work and help you achieve that dream?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So, what is my ultimate dream? Well, first of all, I mean, my dream is for everyone to live independently with choice and control, and that we will stop segregating people because they are disabled or because they are different from us. That we will believe that both that we will work together, and we will believe that we can live independently. First of all, we disabled people we need to believe it because very often we don't have this empowerment. So that's why it's important to work with disabled people, to have peer support, to have mentors and role models. And this is how I also learned. You don't grow up with knowing everything. So we need to each other to get empowered. Then we need to empower our families to believe that their children and their siblings and people can live independently, because very often the families are the one institutionalizing their children or families members because of protection reasons. So they don't have necessarily bad intentions, but they don't know alternatives. They don't believe. So we need to work with disabled people, with families, of course, with the society, with the governments, with the policymakers, with organizations, with stakeholders involved in the field, depending on the topic. So if you work about education, you need to work also with teachers. If you work in the transport sector, you want the transport experts to work together to include disabled people in every aspect. And I think this is what I would like to see. Disabled people mainstream, disability to be mainstreamed in our society. Not to do only special disability things. But to see disabled people being running for US presidency, running for the EU EU Commission positions, to see people like Stephen Hawking more, people, who can be just scientists, just actors, just whatever, and not disabled. And for everyone to have this opportunity, because now a lot of our people are not that privileged like I am or like you are. They are institutions, they are living in inaccessible places, segregated, in their homes, in poverty. So we need to be mindful of those and make sure that we can support their independent living. And where people can find me. So I mean our work at ENIL EU, so ENIL.eu. This is the website of ENIL, the European Network on Independent Living. And me myself, I mean you can Google my name, Kamil Goungor, and find me on social media. And also the Trawiller, from there, and Trawiller, it's traveler and wheeler on social media to find the traveling aspect of my passion and my work. So I think this is where you can find us. And I live also on social media, the Greek Independent Living Organization. I don't know if I replied to everything or I forgot something.
Yeah, you definitely did. And it was very empowering what you said about, people with disabilities pursuing their passion, their interests without overly having to identify with their disability and having to deal with the obstacles of the day-to-day living. And that can be a part, but not an overwhelming part where it impinges upon the interest, the passion, the vocation, right?
Yeah, just a very quick comment on that. I know we don't have much time. Just to say that it's also about the social model of disability and about how you see disabled people in an environment when you don't have barriers, when you don't have oppression, when the attitudes are correct, you kind of forget your disability. In an environment which is not accessible, not inclusive, and with stereotypes, then this is what makes you disabled. That's why I like the word disabled, because I am disabled by the barriers and by the oppression of the society. And that's why I like traveling, because in different places of the world, I feel differently disabled. In some places, I don't really feel disabled. And this is nice. You kind of forget, and it's totally possible. Of course, you have your impairment and you will have it, and that's totally fine. It's part of the diversity of our world. But we can work a lot to eradicate the disability part. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily to forget about it, but at the same time, you're right, not be thinking about it so much that that's
Yeah,
that's
I
the
don't mean
majority of what you think about.
yeah, I
So
didn't mean forget literally, but metaphorically, yeah.
yeah. And well, I think we've learned so much. I've learned so much from the last 40 minutes. Thank you so much, Kamel. I know it's late
Thank you
for
for coming.
you in Athens as well.
Come and visit us, and thank you for coming with me. I hope
Yeah,
people enjoy it.
yeah, of course. I think they'll definitely learn a lot. So thank you again, and I hope to meet you in person at some point soon.
Yeah, same. Thank you so much.